and welcome to another story from us, Winery Schabl. Today I want to talk about yeast, how we use it, how we handle fermentation, how we can set the right parameters in the vineyard for a sound fermentation in the cellar. I will cover how we work with yeast nowadays and what are the advantages of bought selected yeast. Okay, what a complex topic. There are so many things we can discuss, and I'm sure I will forget one thing or the other. Before we dive into the microscopic world of organisms which are responsible for the fermentation, I will briefly talk about how we work in the vineyard, since I'm sure that this affects the fermentation process more than anything else. We farm organically and bring out biodynamic preparations. We focus on natural soil health and bring out compost, which brings in many beneficial microorganisms. We plant cover crops and maintain undervine vegetation to support beneficial microorganisms and insects. We want to create a balanced ecosystem that thrives both above and below the ground. This should ensure that our grapes are balanced too and bring all they need for becoming rich and vivid wines. Through targeted measures in the vineyard, such as soil management, fertilization and yield control, the pH value of the grapes can be influenced, and a desired lower pH value in the wine can be achieved. I'm convinced that all the things I've mentioned are crucial for a good fermentation with indigenous yeast. Now, I will focus on our current approach to yeast, which clearly is using indigenous yeast. For me, it is important that the parameters for the yeast are right in the must before the fermentation starts. In my opinion, the most crucial tasks for a winemaker are taking place right after pressing of the bunches. First of all, the must should taste sweet, good and pleasurable, without any taste of mold or unwanted aromas. But it should not be clear though. The yeast needs a certain number of particles where it can attach to. If the parameters are fine for us, I'm in a state of mind where I'm ready to let the magic happen. If some parameters are not ideal or we are stressed because of some other ongoing fermentations, we think about adding a small amount of sulfur. This can suppress certain bacteria and yeasts and can boost the growth of the main strain of yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Also, another thing we like to do, if we have an ongoing fermentation where we think it is doing well, we take some buckets out of it and add it to the new must. If we have a stuck fermentation, it was probably too slow and temperatures in the cellar dropped because it is already winter. It is important to fill up the barrels and tanks and wait until it gets warmer, and so fermentation will restart. If we have smaller batches in barrels we can transport, we move them in warmer places so the last grams of sugar can be fully fermented. Another reason can be that malolactic fermentation started. It happened to us that malolactic fermentation paused alcoholic fermentation and continued afterwards. The reasons behind this is unclear to me. We like to leave our wines a certain amount of time on the lees. Lower-bodied, easy-to-drink wines we keep for a short time on the full lees only. I think the longer the wines have contact to the full lees, the less intense fruity aromas are there. For full-bodied wines, the maturation on the lees is more favorable to us and gives them richness. A long storage on the lees, like for a year, gives the wines a special mouth feeling, since autolysis of the yeast takes place. Autolysis is and I looked the correct definition up, is the enzymatic digestion of cells by the action of its own enzymes. This means that the yeast is breaking up and releases its inner parts. Thinking back to former times when our winery used to use bought selected yeast, there was very little involvement or observation in the fermentation process. And this is due to its advantages of bought selected yeast. It is fast and very competitive. It does not make any problems. It overcomes problems of different legs of the must. It outcompetes microorganisms that could be harmful to your wine, because it simply grows faster and consumes the sugar before any other microorganism has time to. The downside of bought selected yeast is that the quality is standard and the taste or style is uniform.